Cole, can we talk about how ridiculous it is to try to pour out of this bottle?
Oh, out of the Nika bottle? Yeah.
It's so ridiculous.
Like size of a dime.
Put it on the edge of the
Is
glass.
this a Jefferson's bottle?
Ooh.
No, it's a Japanese whiskey
Nika.
bottle. Nika from the
Love
barrel.
Japanese whiskey.
Yeah.
Nice.
I just had a really cool
Very
experience
good.
during dinner with Maddie. We talked to the proprietor, and he's got some really fancy whiskey I shared with Cole, and he's selling it for really cheap, barely over markup, like for a bottle that retails at like $1,400. So I haven't gone. I'll go back, but I had the 12-year instead of the 18-year.
Yeah, I'm
But
jealous.
see, when I talk into my microphone, I disappear from my camera.
Move your
That should be
webcam over.
interesting.
Yeah, I'll move your microphone.
Yeah, I can do that.
Excuse me.
There you go.
Yeah.
It's mobile.
But now when I do the zoom-ins on your face for the reels, it's going to get really zoomed in.
Really, really zoom.
So funny.
Hello and welcome to A24 on the Rocks. I will be your host this evening, Cole William Whitlaw Gibson, resident Canadian. I'm pounding some White Claw this evening, and we will be reviewing the backstabbing.
Backstabbing for beginners.
Backstabbing.
There are backstabbers backstabbing, so it makes sense.
Yeah. All right. Backstabbing for Beginners, a 2008 political thriller directed by Fly. What a name. Based on the memoirs of Michael Soussan, it follows the real-life corruption scandal based in the UN Oil for Food program in Iraq in the late 90s and early 2000s. It stars Theo James and Ben Kingsley. But before we get into the film, I got other guests. I got other co-hosts. I got people way better than me. We're going to start with my man, my brother, Kevin.
Good evening, world. It's Kevin K. Konachek. Pleasure to be here again. Thanks, Cole. I'm here. I'm drinking. Talking about movies. Tonight, I'm back on the whiskey. I'm enjoying a good Japanese whiskey tonight. You've heard me talk about this one before. It's a Nika whiskey from the barrel. It's quite delicious. If you haven't drank Japanese whiskey before, go out of your way, go to your liquor store, and go buy some Japanese whiskey. It's delicious. And that's me. Next we have...
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for visiting with us this evening. Now, I've traveled across half our state to be here and to see about the land. Now, I dare say some of you might have heard some of the more extravagant rumors about what my plans are, so I just thought you'd like to hear it from me. This is the face. It's no great mystery. I'm an oil man, ladies and gentlemen, and I'm drinking oil tonight. Anyway, my name's Eric. I'm drinking a Featherbone bourbon whiskey. Up next we have Kelly.
What was that a reference to?
I did a really horrible Daniel Plainview accent.
There will be blood.
Oh, that's what I thought. I was like, that's
Yeah.
a There Will Be Blood reference, right? I was just like, wait.
Hey, I'm Kelly. I'm married to that oil man. Take what you will. And during this episode, I am drinking a beautiful Pinot Noir 2019 from Chile. It goes down easy, and it's delicious.
I thought it was called Peanut Newer.
That's what you think.
Pinot Noir, caviar, Pinot Noir,
Have we had
brand
this
new
discussion
crop.
before about, like, how to
Peanut
pronounce
Noir.
wines?
That's
Peanut Newer.
John C. Riley on Tim and Eric. The wine guy.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
He's like
That was a
Peanut
great
Noir.
skit. Daddy's like spilling wine all over himself. Great skit.
A24 on the rocks. All right, so as I mentioned, we are reviewing a film that I was not familiar with, Backstabbing for Beginners. This is based off of a book written by Michael about himself, about his time as a diplomat or working for diplomats in the UN during the Oil for Food program that eventually became quite a diversive and quite a scandal. So let's start with you, Eric, our local historian. What is your first, have you ever seen this film or know anything about this film? And then do you have any insight or knowledge of the Oil for Food program?
No. Yeah, like I was very young when this happened, and like I definitely knew about the Iraq War. I was like 10 when 9/11 happened, and I was a very anti-war high schooler. But I guess I was mostly focused on the war itself, and I had no clue about this Oil for Foods program. I guess Bill Clinton, introduced it, and I was 4 when he was introduced. So like this is something, a whole part of history of Iraq War and the Middle East like history that I guess I just didn't know during that time.
Let's go to Kelly next.
Yeah, same thing for me. I'm at that fun age where if you say it's 2002, that means I was in 2nd grade. If it's 2001, I was in 1st grade. So I had no awareness of this program. I had no awareness of this movie either. And I found that this is a really important story to tell. And what I learned from it is that the book that it's based on, Backstabbing for Beginners, I don't have it in front of me, but it's something like my foray into diplomacy.
Backstabbing for Beginners, my crash course in international diplomacy.
Yeah, which is a really good book title. And from what I could see from the book reviews, it's actually pretty witty and light and has good humor to it. And it is based on the true story of the character that we follow throughout this movie. So the fact that he's able to go through all that and still be like, here's a book that I'm going to write on something really horrific that changed my view on the entire world. And also here's some jokes. I think that that's pretty important. And I think that that's something that it made me interested in reading. And I don't like to read a lot of nonfiction. That said, like I just said, didn't know about this program, didn't know about this movie.
Kevin, our resident book nerd, what about you?
Same. I'm aware the UN is a thing. I'm aware that Iraq did some naughty things, and that there were some sanctions involved. But as far as anything outside of that, no, I didn't really have a ton of knowledge at all about this program or anything else. I famously do not, no, not famously, but I don't watch trailers. Famously. I don't watch trailers for these films before I watch them. I just don't do it. I don't like it. So going into it, I had no idea what this was going to be about. And as soon as we got the opening shots of Saddam, and I was like, all right, here we go. We're going to do a Middle Eastern war flick. It kind of made sense as it progressed. But no, I had no knowledge, and I'm kind of glad that I didn't, because that made it a little more entertaining, just kind of learning as I was watching the film.
Yeah, I find it quite interesting that this scandal is considered one of the biggest scandals in the UN history, but I had never heard about it, and none of us had heard about it. I didn't know if I was just living under a rock. I like to think that I am somewhat in tune with some historical stuff, and then with hearing the same from you guys, it was quite surprising. And like Kevin, I also went into it completely blind. I didn't watch any trailer or anything like that. And the opening scene definitely, I was like, all right, we're going right into the Iraq situation.
The UN must have really good PR, because I honestly, the fact that all 4 of us have never heard about this, and
yeah.
I mean, I was cognizant during that time.
I knew Kofi Annan, right? So I knew who he was.
Yeah.
I knew he was the Secretary General of the UN. I was aware of his existence. But outside of that, that was probably the only UN-related piece of knowledge that I really had from specifically that time period.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, when I think of UN, I don't necessarily have favorable views, but I've never, I guess, heard about this situation. So very interesting. I think unique spin or unique story that I feel like definitely was something that needed to be told and shown through multiple media, because a lot of people apparently like ourselves were not aware and only really got exposed through through film, which is powerful, but maybe not the best film, but we'll get into that later. With your guys' interests in film, what is your thoughts about political thrillers? I am not the biggest fan of political thrillers. I feel like they are hard to do correctly, but when they're done properly, they can be fantastic. Let's start with maybe you, Kelly. Do you have any thoughts on political thrillers? Is that something that you're interested in or scope out that I'm not aware of?
As I am Googling what are some notable political thrillers, I will say I don't search them out. I really hardly ever watch them. I will say when I do watch them, I usually come away thinking that they were pretty good. I think that it's a bold genre to explore. I think that it's an important genre to explore because it does expose a lot of things that otherwise are hidden by the tides of history.
The man.
Or the man, whichever you choose. I can't name a political thriller that I have watched at this exact moment.
I Googled the same thing, like top political thrillers of all time. A few were left off the list on Google at least, which, obviously, but Oppenheimer won Best Picture last year.
Just watched
I
that
consider that a political thriller.
Absolutely.
Sure.
1,000%.
Yeah.
The two that come to my mind, since I'm going to talk about it, are the two that I saw in the theater, which actually matters because I actually thought they were both long and ridiculously arduous to watch in the theater, and that is Argo and Pearl Harbor.
I liked Argo.
Pearl
Harbor sucked, though.
Yeah, Pearl Harbor sucked, and I love you. All right, Pearl Harbor sucked. Anyway, Argo was okay, but it was really long. It was like 2.5 hours, almost 3 hours long, and I think it was at a time where I was just kind of like, Argo, fuck yourself. You said that how many more times in the film, and that's enough for me. But political thrillers in general, right? They have to be really good in order to grab your attention, and the subject material also has to be something that, oftentimes need to be relevant. Now, not to say that this really wasn't relevant, but it's also an A24 film, so it dives into like some of the smaller. It shouldn't be smaller. It's one of the biggest ones in UN history. But again, we touched on it. It seems to be smaller because it's not in the zeitgeist. It's not in the nomenclature of everyone to be like, oh my God, this is something that everybody's familiar with. So I think there's something to be said about the subject matter of political films. And I'm sure there's famous JFK films, right, about his assassination. Famous FDR
Literally,
films.
JFK is a film by Oliver Stone.
I also can't
starring
imagine
Kevin Costner.
Lincoln.
Yeah.
Lincoln.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
But the
Daniel
amount of
Day-Lewis, right?
legal red tape that you'd have to cut through for a lot of these movies, I think should go said as well. Like there has to be so much that you have to get through just to even make it into a film.
Right. Yeah.
I know with a lot of books, especially written by people in the military or veterans, they have to, a lot of times they have to even send their initial copies of their books into the government to be reviewed to make sure that they're not.
Is every war film a political film? Right? I mean, if we're talking about actual events that are politically laden, that means
Starship
Apocalypse
Troopers
Now
for sure
is a political film.
See, it's like I consider Platoon a war film.
I do
but
too,
then
absolutely.
I
But
consider All the President's Men a political thriller. I think the difference is you see a lot of action.
But you don't
in
think
war
there's
films.
some sort of political message in Platoon? You don't watch Platoon and have some sort
there's
of
a political message.
Yeah.
There's a lot of political messages in a lot of films. I wouldn't. Political thriller,
true.
I would say, has less violence. It's more talking than anything.
So where does
More
National Treasure
backstabbing.
lay? National Treasure is an action thriller,
That's
right?
an action.
God,
That's not a political
amazing.
film.
There's the crossover, America. Nicolas Cage, baby.
National Treasure.
Yeah,
I would
don't
call
know,
that an
it's-
action film.
I just segued
But,
into something weird. but-
You know what was really good for a few seasons and really, really fell off, and then
House of
obviously
Cards.
the lead actor,
House
House of
of
Cards.
Yep.
The ultimate
Sorry,
political
I didn't want to
thriller.
steal your total,
Yeah.
but I knew where you were
Or
going.
even
with
The
it.
West Wing. I liked
In
The
West
West Wing
Wing,
for
yep.
a long time. Manchurian Candidate, great political film that. Denzel Washington, I remember seeing the remake when I was a little kid, and I was like, this is freaking awesome. And, that was one of my favorite films, up to this day. And, yeah, there's a lot of good political thrillers
You can have
out
political
there,
intrigue in a lot of films and action stuff. Even things like Mission Impossible, right? A lot of that is because of the political behind the scenes things that drive the action, right? So I know that's getting us a little away from our topic, but politics in general are a very good driver for themes in film.
One more I'll name that I guess it's right on the political thriller list here is Blowout with John Travolta. We talked about it in our episode De Palma. So Brian De Palma directed, Ray Neiman, one of his favorite films, great respected film reviewer, known across the land. And,
yeah, he's one of our favorites.
Yeah.
I love Ray. Let's get him back in another episode. That was great.
Yeah, definitely.
But yeah, I still haven't seen. I haven't seen Fallout since we talked about it, even though it's been spoiled for us. Blowout.
Fallout. Great
Let's
TV
talk
show.
about that too. Like political,
Amazing
there's
game.
political intrigue in that too.
What?
Talking about nuclear destruction, the hands of the Ruskies. I mean, come on. Can
Well,
we
I
say
was
that?
thinking, I
that
haven't
allowed?
seen this movie, or this one I'm about to mention, but I feel like this movie and, like, Milk would be of a similar vein.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
Milk is for
technically.
sure a political. I wouldn't say a thriller, but I would say a commentary piece in relation.
Yeah.
Either way, what was the question?
Yeah.
Mostly,
All right, political
do you
thrillers.
like political thrillers, and do you like what's your general thoughts and feelings about it? Anyone
Well,
could jump
we got,
in.
I think we got it there.
Yeah,
I think we all
kind of like them.
touched him on it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
like
I think-
you know, there's a line for sure.
Yeah. No, I think
Can get boring.
when they're done well, they can be quite impactful and very good. And definitely, again, I think film is a good medium to tell stories that most people might not read or know about, to, you know, kind of shed some light on certain things. I mean, I think that's probably the main reason why Michael wrote his book, was to, you know, he was the whistleblower, so to speak, on the UN, and kind of opened that whole can of worms, and then, you know, wrote a whole book about the experience. And, you know, obviously he capitalized on it, but in a certain way, I think, you know, based off his character, at least the way he portrays himself in the book and the film, he seems to be of noble intent. But speaking of Michael, let's kind of dive into, so his character. He's the son of a diplomat that did pass away in the, I believe, the 80s during a bombing, and he gets into the political atmosphere and gets hooked up with Pasha, who is essentially the main UN head behind the Oil for Food, which is a political, or not a political, I guess
Like
an
a
act or
humanitarian aid
type
kind
thing.
of program.
Yeah, where essentially the UN stepped in because Saddam Hussein had taken over Iraq and had done a lot of horrible things, and his people were suffering. So the UN stepped in and basically took over the oil fields and said that they would sell the oil to countries for humanitarian aid. So essentially, it was like a trade Iraq has just a plethora of oil, and they were using it to bring in food, medicine, and things for the Iraqi people, which is on paper like such a smart and like noble thing to do. But as anyone that's ever looked at anything political, it gets corrupted almost immediately and becomes a way for people to profit off of the struggles of the people and basically exploit them. Going into that, what was your guys' thoughts on how Michael and Pasha were portrayed by Ben Kingsley and Theo James, and their kind of like roles throughout this film? We'll start with you, Kevin.
All right. So I know this is going to sound petty as I'll get out, but I didn't like the voice of Theo James for this role. I know that
You
sounds
like his
weird.
random narrations?
I know. Just something about the way, I don't know. He sounds like me, and I just was like, he's just like, I don't know, something about his voice. I was like, I want it to be a little more Poindextery or nerdy or something, but it was just not. It was, hello, I'm so and so, and it just felt forced, even though it shouldn't have been. It seems really nitpicky. I'm not sure why it graded me the way it did. Overall, I thought that he did a great job in just of, you know, making his points made and, you know, working with the script, but something about the way his voice is just, I don't know. I wanted something different. I know this doesn't make any sense, but that's kind of where it was. I'm a big fan of Ben Kingsley in general. I think that he's excellent. There's something about him, though, with the forced lines where he would say fuck at random, almost like a person with Tourette's. It was kind of like, why are we going with this as a character piece? Maybe the real life individual that he was portraying said fuck a lot like that, but it was kind of forced in a lot of situations. He used the word kid, obviously, a whole bunch, and referring to our main character, too, and that was a little bit, for me. Overall, I think that he's a pretty great actor. I've enjoyed him in a bunch of his other things, and he's been around Hollywood what feels like absolutely for forever. In general, I think those two guys they had a lot on their shoulders. They absolutely had to be able to handle that. And I was just looking through Ben Kingsley's list real quick, and I was like, what do I remember him the most from? And I feel like Shutter Island sticks out. I think he was a doctor in Shutter Island. It was a big one.
He was in Schindler's List, and then he won Best Actor for Gandhi.
There you go. That's it. That's the Gandhi. Gandhi is the other big one, too.
Yeah.
And then he played a bit role in Iron Man 3, and I remember him sticking out for that as well.
And I don't know if you saw the last season of White Lotus, but Theo James was the asshole husband in White Lotus, and he was awesome.
So, I guess more props to Theo James. I'm sure he's much better than I probably give him credit for. But they did a good job. I mean, they moved the movie forward, and it wasn't like a detriment to the film by any stretch of the imagination.
What about you, Eric?
Okay, yeah. Completely agree with the Pasha character, just him saying, what the fuck? And fuck. It's just like, it added this unrealistic element to this character that I couldn't believe. Like, at first I was like, this is a little funny. Like, I laughed here and there, but then it, like, over time it grated me where I'm just like, this is kind of unrealistic that, like, this high-end UN man would just randomly be so, just saying fuck all the time. Michael, kind of like from the opposite end, like they tried to apply a personality to Pasha, and then Michael had very little personality. He just played it very straight the whole time, like he was this kind of rock of a character. Where also they try to almost make him into this James Bond type guy, which I think it goes into the casting of Theo James. It's like, let's cast this very handsome man, this very hot man. And let's, like, kind of, we're going to have a love interest in here, Nashim. And I don't think Nashim was a real-life person that this guy had a love interest with. And it kind of, like, they Hollywoodized this whole story, I think. What they did is they just tried to take this, like, really, actually kind of interesting story, which actually had me in for it the first 45 minutes. And then they, like, added all these, like, little Hollywood bits to it. The love interest, the main character is kind of the spy, almost like he was almost film noir-y, like a detective in a way. And and then you have this kind of the main antagonist is Ben Kingsley. You give him a little quirk by having him say fuck all the time, and you know that he might be conniving. And it does, it feels like they took this very real story that they should have just portrayed seriously as the book portrayed it, and instead of like doing this kind of Hollywood version of it, which I think really watered down the very interesting story that could have been portrayed.
Yeah, I couldn't have said it better myself. Exactly.
Thank you.
No, I was gonna. That was like my next foyer into the realistic depiction of this film was that love interest. I wrote a note down with the timestamp of everything. With like, oh, so we're just gonna throw this love interest in. I did some research, or in my research I mean some light googling, to try and figure out if his love interest Nassim was real. I could not find anything. The only thing I could ever find was related back to this movie. So, as far as I could tell, I think it's a complete fabrication. And so my question to you, Kelly, was, did the love interest add anything? Was it a distraction? And did it even feel real?
I will say a movie like this, I will quickly get bored if it's all men. I do want to see a woman character, regardless of what she plays. Madame Dupree being a woman character in here and being
I wanted more of her.
Being Pasha's enemy in a way was interesting. I have to touch on Michael and Pasha real quick so that I can get to why Dupree was interesting to me. I thought that Pasha played a good character because of the fact that when we first really meet him, all we know is that he hired this guy because he knew his dad. So that's point one for corruption. And also because when told in this of War and Peace document that his assistant first gives him, which should be a really good sign that your assistant is very thorough, he is immediately dismissing it and figuring out where this list of things are and shredding it. I thought that was a great introduction to our character. at the same time, you don't know if he's doing that because he's disillusioned, or if it's because he's corrupt, or if it's because he's just very...
Could be both.
Yeah, or if it's just because he's efficient and there's not enough time to do all these things. And all of those things
disillusionment leads into corruption, right?
Sure. And all of these things were communicated to us just in the first scene with him. I thought that him with his classic "feck" was really funny. And he later talks in a way where I asked Eric, I was like, why is he talking like Tommy Wiseau? And he like got a few lines like that.
There was a few lines where it just peeked in. I'm like, that's, or Kelly said, that's like Tommy Wiseau.
Yeah,
like,
that's
and
what
I was
saying.
like, holy shit, that really is. Yeah.
Yeah. So then, when you have a character like that, I think that in contrast, you need a character. It's almost as if our main character was the supporting actor in the fact that he supported Pasha's role, which I think is respectful, not only in because Pasha's the older character, he's technically higher in rank in the UN. So in both ways, it's almost like our main character was supporting him. And when you're supporting, it makes sense that Theo James' character, Michael, was a little more muted and a little more like an everyday kind of guy. Everyday in the fact that he was a idealist getting into this role. I know Theo James from White Lotus and the Divergent series. And I always thought he was just like a yawn of a person. I think he did a pretty good job in this role. And I saw a good, like, breath of emotion that he can play. And I was like, this guy actually isn't so bad when he's given a better character to play. So I appreciated that. Then we have him also, his character is always just like revealing all of his cards immediately. And always like, that's like his play is to be like openly honest and brutal in a sea of people who are always playing their cards to their chest, like Pasha tells him to do. So when Dupree comes up, we're almost taught to like to treat her like a villain, when in the end it seems like she's actually trying to do the right thing by exposing this corruption and ways that this whole thing isn't actually working out in the way that they think that it is. And similarly, what is our female love interest named? Nashim. Nashim plays a good character in the fact that, for me, she represents the Kurds and their whole struggle. If she wasn't introduced into this story, I don't know if anything that happened with the Kurdish people would be a part of this movie. So I think that that was pretty important. Making them a love interest. For me, it wasn't... Eric, as soon as the two of them were outside, was like, oh, they're gonna kiss. Oh, they're gonna have sex. I'm just like, no, they're not. They're both trying to work for the better good. So Eric saw it right away. I did not. I thought that she was gonna be a fully wrote out character. I still think she was. I don't think that she was just like a sex object in any way. And I'm glad that she was in there, because otherwise it's just a movie of men talking about diplomacy. So we need the
But did they need
the women
to have them hook up though? Like,
yeah, because
they could have introduced that character and had no love interest,
a big
and that would have
fact
actually
is
been
that
very
he does
powerful.
fall in love with her, and that's his
Look, the idea of a
reasoning.
honeypot in spy movies is a real thing. That is a trope or a real idea of someone taking advantage of another person in the sense of a spy movie using their sex. Like, look about James Bond, right? There are so many opportunities for the women characters, and they do, throughout the films, take advantage of the men characters in those circumstances. So, was it necessary? No, but I do think it added to the intrigue of the political side of it one way or another.
Yeah, and Michael's such
just
a
felt it was
predictable, like, average person that it turns every other character into a are they, aren't they type character as well. So for her to be a spy or not, or for Pasha to be corrupt or not, or for Dupree to be villain or not, I think all of that was necessary.
Fair enough. Let's go into Madame Dupree. Does anyone know if she was a real person?
I
Because
didn't look it up. I don't know.
I tried to
I have
find
no
it,
idea.
and I couldn't find anything. I guess about if she was a real diplomat or not. If she was, and she was like had a mysterious death, I think that is fascinating.
Okay, wait. I have one thing here. Madame Dupree was Madame du Barry was the last official mistress of King Louis XV of France.
Thank you for that.
Born in 1743.
That's such an AI answer. Very helpful.
She might
Needed
have
that
been
in my life.
real. But yeah, so that's where I guess some of my issues are. Is I thought that Madame Dupree was such a cool character and was going to be the yin to the yang, and that was going to be the whole story. But in reality, it just she essentially gets killed off, almost very unceremoniously, which is, I guess, more realistic to how it would happen in the real world. But in the film, I guess I wish there was more to her in that story, and I wish the story focused more on that. But I guess also maybe that wasn't the real story, but I don't know who's real or who's not, and I don't know what to trust in this film. Eric, do you have any insight or thoughts on Dupree or that situation?
Yeah, I couldn't actually agreed. I couldn't find anything about Madame Dupree in real life, and I feel like a big Iraqi official, or not even official, a big Iraqi businessman got a person from the UN killed, we would have been able to figure that out right after we watched this film. We would have seen something. So it kind of introduced this huge, even more corruption into this that, I don't think was real, was truthful to the actual story. It was just there to make this kind of mysterious, suspicious intrigue into this program. And, yeah, I think that Nashim and Madame Dupree were actually, good initial ideas for characters, and even up to, Madame Dupree's death, I think, she was necessary to be no, we're stopping this corruption here. She was figuring out the corruption, and she was trying to stop it. That was a necessary part of the story, I think. But then, yeah, Nashim, very necessary up until the point where she becomes a love interest, where I just think you're making Michael, the main character, into this James Bond type spy kind of guy. And, yeah, I just think that becomes unnecessary, and I know it does introduce an emotional element to it, but I feel like the emotional element should be to...
They barely talked. They looked at each other. Half the scenes together was just them staring at each other.
Yeah, exactly. Well, because, Michael doesn't have much of a personality outside of, I want to help people, you know?
Yeah.
And that's his whole personality is I want to be the person my dad was, and I want to actually help the world. Then he doesn't have any quirks about him, or his dialogue is very bland and dry, I would say. So it doesn't lead to the notion oh, hey, Michael and Nashim would hook up, of course, but it just kind of leads to the notion, okay, we wanted to add a love interest and a emotional connection to this film, so that when she inevitably dies, there is an emotional feeling in the crowd, a sadness, and there's real costs or real things at stake here. Real people at stake.
Yeah. Michael just doesn't have that riz, as the kids would say.
Oh, Lord God. We're way too old for that shit, Cole.
Yeah. I'm trying to branch out our
we can say Riz. That's allowed. All right.
Yeah, we can say
Riz.
whatever we want.
I ain't gonna say it.
I mean, it's charisma.
Cole and I can say Riz.
Yeah,
I actually did not know what Riz was
Cole's
until
30
Kelly.
now. He can't.
Kelly randomly said Riz off cuff, and I was like, What's that?" I was like, "What does that mean?"
No, we discovered this last episode that Cole's 30, so he no longer is like the cool kids.
Oh, Kelly's 32.
Well, then we're all no longer like the cool kids.
Jesus
the 4-year difference is pretty big, though. But I mean, between Kelly or 3-year difference between Kelly and I, but I think 4 years between Cole and I. And then
let's not.
Yeah.
No, we don't have to bring
Yeah,
into it.
I won't.
No,
I won't
no
mention
one
the
knows to
difference
out
between-
me. All right.
How old are you, Kevin?
I ain't
45.
40. Okay, I ain't 40.
If you've listened to every single episode,
Then you would know.
So yeah.
Because I said it
But
a couple
if
episodes.
you haven't, then maybe you should go back and listen to all of them, and then you can figure out how old Kevin
There's
is. There we
Easter
go.
eggs throughout.
Yeah. So back to our
Where were we?
Our riveting story about backstabbing
Yes,
and how
a
to
riveting story.
do it. So Theo James, we've established him as a non-risified character that gets the ladies, but doesn't quite no one really understands how he does it. Doesn't have a personality. Kelly, I think you and I have talked about narrations in films. This film had just some random narrations that felt, at least to me, kind of would just come out of the blue. What was your thoughts about the narration? How do you think Theo James does as a narrator? And was it a necessity to help coach us along to understand the story?
There were parts of it that were okay. The best part that I will remember is him in the hotel room talking about how he's like kind of like given up. I think that enhanced that scene specifically. But what really grinded me was him, I think 3 different times said, "My name's Michael Sullivan, and I think I have a story you're gonna want to hear." It's like,
I forgot his last name because, of course, they fucking just said Michael Sullivan. It's such a sland last
and
name.
he says that too many times, and the first time it was bad.
Middle, end.
Yeah, and each time it got worse, and that was unnecessary completely. The shot of him coming to walk into the Wall Street Journal was enough of an impact for me. The fact that they start it immediately with him doing that, I didn't need the narration. If they jump back then, it's like, okay, well, what's his story? Why did he walk in there? Oh, I guess he doesn't work there, so what's going to cause him to do so? The fact that they repeat it is like, I get it. They were hitting me over the head with it. There were parts that worked. There was parts that wouldn't, like I just mentioned. And in general, I don't like narration. So the fact that I'm giving it some points for it working should still be a plus. But I don't know. I don't know about it.
Yeah. Kevin, I'll kind of jump in on that. Do you feel like this film had too much hand-holding, or not enough, or just the right amount?
I think too much. I think that it kind of had moments where it truly almost walked you through exactly what you were supposed to feel to every character. You were supposed to feel a certain way about Ben Kingsley character, whether he was corrupt or not. We were supposed to feel a certain way about our spy character, our love interest. We were really kind of forced to feel, like Eric kind of said perfectly in the beginning, like Hollywoodized versions of these characters, and they did a really good job of, not a really good job, they did a job of forcing it kind of into that mold. Like those characters kind of had to be that way or had to feel that way because of the way it was written. And when you take an original source material and you kind of have that ability to mold it the way you want to, I guess that kind of allows for some of the freedoms that the director/writer felt like they had with this material. But overall, I just really didn't think it was, I was easily able to watch this film while distracted by other things, and I didn't feel like I missed anything. Like, there was other things happening around me, and I was just like, well, I kind of know where the story's going. I bet you I can predict the ending. Got it. And just like, it just really wasn't anything that grabbed my attention and held me together. And that was a lot because of the way that the director kind of approached his audience and gave you everything right off the bat.
No, I agree. I think one of my issues with this film being a political thriller, hand-holding and kind of babysitting throughout the movie feels like a disservice and kind of like it takes away from the story and the intrigue. Because I feel like in a political thriller, you're supposed to not really know who to trust and what to think until it kind of all unfolds at like the climax of the film. And this one felt like almost immediately you knew where everyone stood and what to expect and the thoughts about everyone. Eric, do you have anything you want to add to any of that?
I agree with everything you said. And, well, the other thing I was just thinking about while you were saying that is that, like, the cinematography, also very bland, nothing to write home about. And I think a good way to do this film would almost be like The Office cinematography. Like, you know those films where you have those, like, you have like you do have shaky
Kelly's
cam, but like
face.
it feels more like not okay. You don't like pan to Michael's face and he doesn't look at the camera like do you see
Pasha
what
just
Dwight's
staring
doing
at
right
the
now?
camera, and he goes,
Yeah.
"Fag."
Fuck, kid. Fuck.
Michael's playing pranks on Pasha the whole time. Where was it shot? Production film was in Canada, United States, and
Morocco?
Denmark, and filming started in Morocco. And there was some scenes shot in Copenhagen. If they weren't gonna try to do a fully like cinematic film, maybe they had a low budget, which they did. I believe it was $8 million. Then they should have done the kind of like low budget documentarian type of filming for this film, which like it's made famous by The Office, but there's a lot of like cinematic films in the last 10 years
What We Do
that
in the
cover like
Shadows.
true stories. Yeah, and
Oh, yeah, true story.
yeah,
True stories
and
like What We Do in the Shadows.
they have that kind of like shaky cam type of filming, and one I will point out is In the Loop. One of James Gandolfini's like last films. It does that kind of like cinematography where it's just not just like your normal bland cinematography. It changes things up. That's what I think they should have done with the cinematography for this one.
There were no shots in actual Baghdad.
Nope.
Not that I saw, yeah. The only reason I knew about Morocco was because originally Michael was supposed to be played by the actor that plays PETA from Hunger Games, but he said he wouldn't go to Morocco because it was too dangerous.
Whoa.
So then they gave it to Theo James.
So, Iraq was too dangerous, obviously, for filming, so they went to Morocco, and PETA was like, nah.
PETA was just like, no,
We don't even
thank
remember
you.
his name, which he deserves for being like that. Josh Hutcherson, it just hit me.
Josh
Oh,
Hutcherson.
the Hutch man.
You didn't have to look that up. You actually knew that? Mm-hmm. Damn. Sorry, Josh. I ain't got your name in my Rolodex.
You said Five Nights at Freddy's recently. I mean,
You watched
not
that
a great
too?
film,
I
but
also did not see Five Nights
Yeah.
at Freddy's.
I haven't seen it. I watched the Nick Cage version. Much better.
Wait,
pretty
what?
good. Yeah, Willy's Wonderland. It's basically a Five Nights at Freddy's
I was about to say,
knockoff,
like,
but with Nick Cage.
knockoff.
But
Yeah.
it's he's the monster. Anyhow, back
He's
on
the
track.
monster.
Back on track here. So we talked, so cinematography, that was another thing I wanted to touch on. Eric, you already kind of mentioned it. Does anyone have any thoughts? Kevin, you got any thoughts about the cinematography? Make you feel anything? Make you
Nope.
feel good?
Nothing.
Do you like sepia? Do you like browns and yellows?
Oh, yeah.
Sepia.
With sand.
Sepia.
A little
There we go.
sand. Real good
Yeah.
sand thing. No, there was nothing really at all. Like I said, it was kind of one of those movies that was just kind of like I was okay with it being in the background because it's kind of like there's nothing that's grabbing my attention. I probably should have given it more, but it just there's nothing there. No, nothing from a cinematography.
Cinematography.
We also drink on this podcast. In case
You're getting into
cinematography could
the
not-
drunk history part of this podcast.
drunk history. Yes.
Funny.
There's our niche crossover, Eric. Let's do a drunk. Like we're already a drunk movie review, but like really do a drunk movie review. Like come up with an
With
episode. Like
acting.
we're gonna
well,
effectively get
Eric, what were
effed up.
those documentaries you watched about like the Civil War that were like 7 hours
Ken
long?
Burns.
Ken
Kevin
Burns.
Burns. There we
Civil
go.
War.
Dude, there'd be way
Yeah.
too much.
We're gonna do a Ken Burns documentary drinking game and do it as a
Yeah,
podcast. 7
let's
hours.
I do
We
not
should
want to fuck up
absolutely
that
record an
history.
episode where we get actually drunk while doing something. It would be great. It would be
boy.
great. I mean, On the Rocks is the name of it.
Yeah. So cinematography, everyone I think feels the
I
same.
thought that the cinematography was a little bit better than average because I like the rolling shots of them like entering the hotel. I did like the sepia. It fell into the classic like the classic like we're in New York, so now everything's blue and sky colored and architectural, and then suddenly we're in
It might just
Baghdad.
be lighting and not cinematography. Though.
Well, I think it's always a choice, right? And then we're in Baghdad, and now everything's kind of orange and yellow and, kind of grimy, I think was a conscious choice. It was just kind of, prettier than average just in general, I would say, but nothing like artistic or like cutting or extraordinarily different, but I wouldn't say it was bad. It got to a point, yeah, I guess my notes were just like, this is better than average, not anything that I really need to talk about, but not anything that I thought was bad, and not anything that I thought was average. It was just above average.
Fair enough. As the film progresses, we kind of get to the point where Michael makes the decision to find the documents that were seized from Saddam Hussein's mansion within the UN archives, makes those connections, takes the documents of all the corruption and the payoffs and everything like that, and he takes it to what is the Wall Street Journal, right?
Yeah.
And says his famous line where he's got a story to tell and everything like that.
I think you want to hear it.
Super famous. Super famous.
And how did you guys feel about how this film ended? We'll go back to Eric on this one. How do you feel that this ended and how it kind of wrapped up the story itself?
I also, how they wrap up all the story, there's way too many montages of just like the Iraq war. It's just like, oh yeah, this is what happened in the 6-week span. We decided to invade Iraq, and this
Very
is
sped up.
like the invasion of Iraq. The invasion of Iraq happened, and then Nasheem died, in a car bomb. We, get a few more scenes with the antagonist. I forgot his name. The big businessman who's reaping all the benefits from the
Russian guy?
UN oil for
The Russian
and then he finally, he confronts Pasha. He's like, I've had enough, and Pasha is being like his fuck self. Michael is kind of just disgruntled, angry. He's like, I'm finally gonna bring this guy in, and I don't know, it just wasn't a good lead up to the final climax and consensus of the film, where you're exposing all of this capitalistic corruption within a program that's supposed to be meant to stop war and to help people, and that's like the consensus.
How is it not doing that? Not to be too argumentative about it, but they literally say everyone's rushing in, every country's rushing in to split this place apart like pieces of a pie. They do directly address that.
They say it, but do they show it?
No.
They show George Bush.
I guess they don't. Yeah.
George Bush.
So
But
this
they
is
do
my
say
thing.
it. They do address it, but
They
they
can
can't
say
show
it, but
everything, I guess.
Does it give an emotional impact to the audience through visual language, which is the whole point of film, is to have a visual medium to make an impact on the audience? I don't think they really do that.
For me, it was because you see, it seems like after the montage, right, Pasha's even further down, and he's not even trying to hide it anymore. And that's when he's able to be caught on the camera or on the recording, is it just fell into such ruin. Everyone slicing a piece of pie, to me, made such an impact of, this, no one is actually favored in the end of this. It's all just greed and corruption and capitalistic gains. And I think for me, they express that just through the monologue, which is so weird to say coming from me, I know, but
Exactly. Well,
they did
say
address
but
it.
they don't make me feel it.
Okay.
Of course, yeah. Well, that's why I'm saying they say it, but it's way too convenient. They just kind of wrap up everything that they were trying to say, and it was way too convenient for the story they were trying to tell, which is something that they should make people feel when they watch. They should make them feel how this corruption really, really hurts people. And instead of giving these kind of shallow characters to us, I bet you it could have been way more impactful if they had stronger, more well-written characters, more well-written dialogue, that and stronger cinematography that really gave us that feeling of, oh hey, this area that the U.S. invaded, 15 years ago, there was all these capitalist interests in that invasion and in everything that happened afterwards. And also there was all these capitalistic interests in the United Nations, which is supposed to be a program that's just supposed to help people. It was created after World War II, right? After, that they decided to create this because they wanted war to, that kind of war to never happen again.
Yeah, that's what Michael says, that how his dad describes it to him, is it seems like it is the solve for the end of all wars.
Yeah.
And then he comes to see how it is. And when you say, how they don't
but
show...
not felt.
So, for example, the scene with the girl who's in the hospital and with Pasha reacting to that with tears, with saying he'll do everything that he can, and then Dupre saying that it sickens me to see you fake things like that. For me, that was a good way to show how real people are impacted by it. Even the doctor himself is saying, try to explain to her why she can't get the medicine that she needs. To me, it's like, is Pasha being real, or is he not being real with those tears? Is Dupree just being an asshole by pointing out the fact that she thinks that it's fake, or is she actually the good guy? For me, that scene kind of said everything that you said this movie isn't showing.
That scene wasn't enough, I would say. It was within the first 45 minutes, and like I said earlier in the podcast too, I feel like the first 45 minutes had me engrossed in this film, and then it really fell off, in the last hour or so.
I don't disagree with that.
Okay.
Yeah. I felt like I think this movie started off very strong and very interesting. But, I mean, really, I know, Kelly, not saying that you liked the love interest, but you enjoyed the, inclusion of that actress and her commitment to the film. But honestly, when that happened, I almost, took a step back and, lost a little bit. And that little bit that I lost, it never gained it back, and it just kept kind of taking steps back for me. It almost every turn, it's almost like there was two, I don't know, the writer from the first half of the film got fired or walked away, and then the writer for the second half stepped in.
You were talking to Kevin about pacing of it, or is it telling you too much or holding your hand too much? And I definitely feel like if we're thinking about this writer theory, the writer of the first 45 minutes of the film, I was like, I need to open a Wikipedia page real quick. I'm getting lost. And then the rest of it, I was like, can we put some of the intrigue that was in the first bit of this movie back into the rest of it? Because then it was just a downhill slide.
Yeah. Well, I think we're getting close to the time for our reviews. Does anyone have any last minute things or soapbox they want to talk about on this film?
Those were the most laissez-faire, boring sex scenes of all time.
Yeah, the heavy breathing really just took me completely out of that. I was like, wow, we're just gonna...
I mean, I knew that sex scene was gonna be terrible because the moment that led to it was just them staring at each other. And I'm like, they're gonna kiss. And I'm like, maybe they're not gonna kiss.
There was no emotional chemistry there. There was no chemistry.
Because she was a
between
spy
the actor
in
and
a
actress.
honeypot, and she was taking advantage of him the whole
also,
time.
when he goes in for the kiss, I'm like, is he just rubbing his nose on her nose, but we can't see it because of the back of the head?
That whole relationship just happened. It was just there, and I was like, oh wait, they're into each other. Cool, of course that's gonna happen. Great.
Yep. Lame sex scenes.
Lame.
Yeah. If you're gonna put a sex scene in a film, at least make it good.
Yeah.
And let's look at The Room for a good example.
Do you guys think that this movie would be improved if the actor wasn't just a hot guy? What if he was a really normal?
Right out of it.
What if he was a really normal looking guy?
I wanted him to be Poindexter. I wanted him to be something that wasn't that.
I honestly don't. I think the dialogue of the actor was
they
what
made
really
him James
ruined
Bond. It was ridiculous. They didn't need to do that.
He was very, very handsome, but yeah, the dialogue of the actor did not help him at all.
He was the hottest 24-year-old I've ever seen in my life.
There was I want to be a diplomat, but I look like I want to be a GQ model.
Yeah.
Whatever. Can we talk about this now?
Yeah. Kevin. Let's go.
All right.
Give me a review, buddy.
Backstabbing for beginners. Anytime you take a real subject matter and apply it to a film, you are under a different microscope than you would be otherwise, meaning there's going to be some actual fact-checking and some reality behind whatever you're trying to do. Eric, you said it perfectly in the first third of this podcast when you basically said they took a historical theme and then Hollywoodized it. There you go. Did that to it. And it completely just took me out of the film from that moment on. You could tell that they were like, we're going to take a story and we're going to try to make money out of it. We're going to add sex. We're going to add hot bodies. We're going to add all these other things that are not necessary. But it was still a great story that needed to be told. It was something that is clearly not been exposed enough. It's not been talked about enough in media and in history classes and all of those other things. None of us really knew about it. We're talking about a multi-billion-dollar corrupt corporation, whatever not corporation, but the entire program itself was corrupt from start to finish. And like, this is a big deal, and a lot of people's money is going towards it, and they just didn't do a great job of kind of describing that throughout the film. There was nothing really that took me into it. It was a slog from start to finish. It was, interesting enough in the story itself. It was telling was like, yeah, that's cool, right? Iraq War was a real thing. Everything that we watched in our time growing up, and that's part of our history. But at the end of the day, there was nothing compelling about the story itself. The actors didn't do a good enough job to really make me care. The writer and director certainly didn't do a good enough job to make me care, and I was just kind of left wanting overall. So A24's attempt at a political thriller did not do a great job for me. I'm going to give this one a D, as in Dingo 24.
All right, let's go to you, Kelly.
Cole, I think you missed an opportunity to soapbox that I would like to offer you one.
Oh.
How about cracking that list on the USB drive?
Oh, yeah. I mean, that was that whole that whole scenario of them cracking the USB drive. And the fact that they had like this encrypted drive that they kept plugging into everything and nothing like remotely bad happening, or even like trying to like isolate it or have like a virtual desktop or anything like that and have it completely separated. They're just like, yeah, fucking keep plugging it into stuff. And then I did love the because this is in the 90s, like late 90s, and they're like run around with a USB drive. They have a 71. Yeah, okay, 2002. So early 2000s. They have a 71-minute recording.
Yeah.
That is apparently of such high quality they can enhance on it, which I always love when any film does like digital enhancement where they're like, enhance on that, and they're just like
enhance. CSI.
And they're like
Miami.
Perfectly.
Enhance.
And I'm like, I've got like freaking security cameras on my house that are like 2K, and I can't see more than fucking 15 feet from my door because everything looks like a pixelated mess. And you're telling me this thumb drive from 2002 can handle a 71 minute film plus all these documents and everything like that?
Enough
like,
to identify people's faces and be like, oh, that's so and so.
Yeah. Also, the that whole process of them cracking it was basically the guy's like, he gives it to his sister's husband or sister's friend, and he's like, yeah, I can't crack it. And he's like, we gotta crack it. And he's like, okay, I'll crack it. And then he's like, I'll take it and I'll go crack it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay. And
at the very least, I expected them all to show up dead, right? Like,
well,
you helped and now you're gonna get killed.
Yeah. Or he gets
down.
random third person. He's like, I know a friend who can do this. We're never introduced to him. It seems like he's fine. It wasn't necessarily something that he wanted to blurt out to the rest of the world.
No. And then they go to the UN office with the cracker guy, because I think it was the USB cracker, and he's like, things you do for family, and then they just stuff files up their back shirt, and I'm like, so you're telling me you're in a secret, like, high security UN facility? They don't have cameras fucking watching you guys, making sure you're not stealing documents, and then when you do leave, they don't have security watching you as you leave, as you just stuff folders up your back.
Oh, you're from oversight. It's fine.
Yeah, no worries, go for it, we don't care. Like, yeah, that basically any type of like secure documents and stuff like that drove me crazy. I mean, like, so I work for the I'm a federal contractor. We are not allowed to use USBs at all. If you plug a USB into our computer, it basically bricks it. Like, they have I obviously 2002, I don't know the security. I was like, I don't even, I was 6 at that time. I was in like first grade or second grade like Kelly, so I have no idea what the computer security at the time, but I imagine it was probably something similar where USB drives were so new you weren't allowed to use it. And I mean, it's 2024 and we're still not allowed to use USB drives. Hell, I gotta send CDs to the Army Corps if I want to give them documents, so it's dumb. It's all dumb.
Okay. I definitely wanted to hear your thoughts on that because that was just crazy to me. Honestly, I think I liked this movie than the rest of you guys, which is surprising to me because it's a political thriller. But like I alluded to earlier, I don't seek them out, but I tend to like them. I really liked the subject matter of this movie. It's a story that I haven't heard before, and like the previous films we've reviewed that are documentaries, I think that when it comes to a documentary or a political thriller, I think I should walk away learning something, or at least knowing more about something that I had an idea of before. And I definitely walked away learning a lot from this movie that I wouldn't have known otherwise. I didn't know that the UN went through a whole restructuring after this. The fact that the guy who is depicted as Pasha does still live in exile in Cyprus is really fascinating. I wouldn't have known that without this movie. When it comes to cinematography, like I said, better than average, so that would have a rating entailed with it too. I think that this was the best acting I've seen from Theo James from other things that I've seen him in. I liked that he was just a pretty, like, neutral main character outside of the fact that he's just an absolute idealist who becomes disillusioned, which, as somebody who considers myself an idealist who easily becomes disillusioned, it was an extremely relatable character, and you guys know I like to care about my characters, so that works. I thought that everyone he comes across, that they did a good job of keeping the tension for me of, is this someone we can trust? Is this someone we can't? Should he be revealing all of his cards to them? And when he turns to like the CIA or whoever that guy depicts as well, I found that to be a lot of intrigue. The most dramatic scene for me was when he got off the plane and he's brought into interrogation for just a hot second. I was like, what the heck would I do in that scenario? And I think that that's what his character kind of did a good job of portraying, is if you were in his shoes, what would you do? And I think that that is a theme throughout the movie as well, is like, do you stick by your guns or do you start playing by the rules that you're slowly learning everyone else's? So that carried me through the movie. I will say I was never bored watching it, which can't be said for every movie that we watch. All of this said, it's not the best movie, obviously. I think that there's a lot that could be improved. I wish that there was more like on-scene shots. I wish that there was more, like kind of Eric alluded to, they speak about what's happening to everybody who is actually affected by this corruption, but they don't really show it. And I think that it could be a lot more emotionally impactful by showing that instead of giving us that emotional impact by showing a love interest who gets blown up. That could have been replaced by something that was more real. All of this said, though, I still did enjoy it, but it had room for improvement. So I'm just completely middle of the road. C24 from me.
All right, I'll go next. I think that this movie taught me something in the history that I did not know, which was about the UN and the oil for food and that whole program and everything like that, which I found very interesting. And I always appreciate getting knowledge about real life events and things through more of an entertaining media. So I appreciated that. I did feel like this film, after that 30 to 45 minute mark, just started to go really downhill. I didn't like really any of the characters' portrayals, and the story just became like, it felt very like dumbed down. Like, I don't know, it just got like really simple, and it felt like a movie that I would watch like waiting at an airport or a dentist that's just on TV that they made, and it's just like, we made a political thriller, and I watch it and I'm like, I guess, yeah, it's not much of a thriller if you tell me every aspect as it's happening of like what's to do and what to feel. I don't think it's a terrible movie. I don't think it's a very good movie. I think the concept of the story is the best part of it, and everything else falls very short. It's definitely a weird film to be within the A24 filmography or whatever, in their library. Like, it just doesn't feel like an A24 film. It doesn't feel like it accomplishes what it set out to do. Honestly, I would if someone asked me about like what's a good political thriller, I would tell them to go watch Argo. It's very pro Canada. It's
and there's so much anti-Canada propaganda.
Yeah, I know. Like, we need to get more Canadian stuff out there, but
Don't listen to this man.
like, even if someone asked me about oil for food and they're like, do you know anything, I wouldn't recommend this. I would just tell them to go read some articles or
Google it.
Or, I mean, apparently the book has like very good reviews, like almost like a 5-star reviews on the book. So maybe the book is just like much better, just like very well written, much more articulate, and a better understanding of the story and through his eyes, and it just doesn't portray well through film. I don't know. I definitely feel like Eric alluded to it. It's been Hollywoodized, where maybe they started off with the script and they had written it and they had like it ready to go, and some Hollywood exec was like, the people are gonna be confused. I don't know who is who. Also,
Put James Bond in it.
yeah, Theo James is a beautiful man. You're telling me he's not banging anybody? We gotta
Fix
somebody.
that sex scene right now.
Like,
I
don't
feel
know.
you.
It's just,
I feel you.
I don't know. It didn't click for me, so I had it as a D+. I didn't have it in the C tier. I had it as a D+, 24. Not terrible, not great, forgettable. It'd probably be one of those films where if you asked me in a month what I thought about it, I'd be like, I'm not sure what it is, to be honest. I'm not a very good backstabber. Also, my favorite review was on Amazon. Someone gave it a 1-star, and it just said, I don't know, I guess I'm not very good at backstabbing.
Didn't learn anything from it.
Yeah.
Not worth it.
All right, Eric, wrap us up.
Don't know
buddy.
more about backstabbing than I used to.
Well, I think I said most of the things I wanted to say already. Is they took a true story and they made it very Hollywood, and they put a main character in here that was, I think, supposed to be kind of James Bond adjacent. Like, he was supposed to be this handsome spy that gets to sleep with the honeypot, and then, then the honeypot dies. Like, I think I've seen that in film before.
Yeah, multiple times.
Yeah, like James Bond, I think the honeypot usually dies too, doesn't she?
She
like,
often does, yes.
Yeah.
Or is used as a political pawn in some thing.
I've never seen a James Bond movie. Spoilers.
We have to fix that. We have to fix that.
What?
We said that before. We've talked about this before.
Skyfall is the one most worth seeing, in my opinion. But
all right, sorry, I don't mean to interrupt. Continue.
yeah, anyway, but the first 45 minutes of this film, I was actually really interested. I didn't even know it was a true story. I was just like into the plot, and I was like, "This is actually like Ben Kingsley's in here. Like, I'm really interested." And his character did not become a caricature yet. With all of the times he said "fuck" every time, it was funny. And then it eventually became a caricature. Like, he became kind of, it seemed like unnecessary comedic elements to the story that could have been very strong on its own. So, yeah, I'm kind of with everybody else. I'm at a D24 here. Like the writing, nothing to write home about. Cinematography could have been much better, especially, it was shot in Morocco. Like, there was that one scene I remember of Michael and Nashim looking over the mountains right before those secret agents, storm by them and then stop their car. And I was like, this is actually a really beautiful shot, But then there was a lot of other scenes in the film where I think if you're a good director, good cinematographer, you can find great shots in minimal spaces. And there was a lot of, shots, or scenes here in offices where it just seemed very bland. But, I think a better director, better cinematographer probably could have found better shots in more minimal spaces. And so, yeah, anyway, final grade would be D24. And fun fact I want to do right now, the producer of this film was Lars Knudsen, who seems to have produced several...
Name.
That's his real name. Lars Knudsen. He's from Denmark.
That's Knudsen, sir?
Knudsen. That's probably true. Yeah. But the first A24 film he produced was American Honey. The next was Backstabbing for Beginners. After that, Hereditary, Midsummer, The Northman's Robert Eggers, but or not A24,
Eggers.
but Beau's Afraid, Dream Scenario, and then he does several. He's doing several this year. Eddington, Death of a Unicorn.
Who is this guy?
Some random guy from Denmark who's producing all these huge A24 films.
Is he a co-producer or the producer?
A co-producer.
I only say that because
one of several.
We loved American
Honey. What does a producer do?
Yeah,
we loved American
Honey.
But
he's gonna do Hereditary, which we're gonna review in a few weeks. He did Midsummer, Beau's Afraid, Dream Scenario.
That's a big deal.
Yeah.
Interesting. This movie had a lot of Denmark influence,
What
Danish
was the
influence.
Rotten Tomatoes on this one? We didn't talk about it.
I think it was a 38%.
Not good. Yeah.
I feel like the reviewers had it lower than the audience score.
Probably.
I think everyone had it pretty low.
Magic of
Except for
editing.
Amazon.
52% audience, 39% critical.
Yeah, my favorite is to just go to Amazon reviews of movies I don't like because
Those are the best.
Always,
Cole, we need to remember that segment every time.
they just always have the best reviews, and every movie on Amazon is 4.5 or higher.
And they're most unhinged.
There's
too.
not a movie that is below 3 stars on Amazon. I have yet to find one. So yeah, Backstabbing for Beginners has a 4.3 out of 5 and 507 reviews. And it's got almost 60% of them are 5 stars, and they're basically all of them are just very I would say red-blooded Americans that are just this is completely accurate. You can't trust the government. Don't let these, or I guess it's more of a libertarian viewpoint, but just super hardcore. Just this is why we need to dismantle the government. We need to destroy everything. We need to drain the swamp. So 5 stars. That's yeah. So I guess we'll wrap this one up. I appreciate everyone's time. This is A24 on the Rocks. We reviewed Backstabbing for Beginners, and if you enjoyed this and this is your first time, please like and subscribe. Let us know maybe there's a film or thoughts you have that you would like us to review or go back on. We do some 5 discussions, so always open to suggestions. If you do a good review, maybe we'll read it out on the air. Okay, bye.
Bye.
Drink responsibly.
I love that. We should include that in every episode. Drink responsibly. Because God knows we don't.
A24.